mean, what would you say is probably one of the biggest challenges that today's realtors facing? I mean, what do you think? What do you think that looks like?
Time shortage. That really hasn't changed. The time factor really has not changed. Even though we can do more during business, we can email contracts, we can do Skype appointments, we can do all these things, but people still have a shortage of time. That hasn't changed.
No, it's so true. Welcome to Business Insights with Matt Milia. I'm your host, Matt Milia, and in this podcast, we'll talk about the real, raw, uncut business success secrets you won't find anywhere else. Follow my journey from entry level to CEO. We discuss real actionable items you can plug into your business right away. To subscribe to our weekly top tips, you can go to www.mattpodcast.com and join our community of elite high-level performers. And if you're interested in our inside sales company, you can go to www.appointmentstoday.com to jump on a free strategy call. And now, stay tuned for our podcast. Hey, everybody. It is Matt Milia here, and I want to welcome you to episode number 1. Matt Milia's Real Estate Insight, where we show you how to turn poop to gold. I'm just kidding. We don't work on that. By the way, that is a great book, though, for marketing. Again, my name is Matt Milia, and I'm joined here with Kristen, who is my right hand here in building our business appointments today. And she's actually in cell block B today over in the local jail. Totally joking, but you can see her. The background is a little dark, so hence the reason we're working on that. What's going on, Kristen? How are you?
Good. We put some black bars over my eyes. Give me some anonymity here. I know it's so funny. I know. I'm being interrogated. Yeah.
Well, so for everyone that's watching here, I mean, our main goal of this is to help you guys nail and scale, grow in the real estate business. We're going to talk about everything real estate related, starting off with, something as simple as how to structure how to structure if you're going to start a real estate company or start a real estate team, how to block out your day, how to have the best mindset. And we're going to have every week, we're going to do this Wednesday at noon, and we're going to be consistently bringing in new speakers and individuals that we can interview and really get a little background on them. So before I get started, though, on some of our other guest speakers that we have, I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of background on myself. Again, my name is Matt Milia. I'm the owner and co-founder of Appointments Today. Started the business almost 5 years ago now. We're going on 5 years, and our company is an inside sales company. So essentially what we do is we help you call all your leads, help you set those pesky appointments, because most real estate agents, they don't like calling their leads, or if they like calling their leads, they do it for a short period of time. But they get really busy. And, being an agent myself, and Kristen also, who was an agent as well, it is really, really challenging to manage the time on the leads. But super quick backstory on myself. I actually, in school, was a total below average student, CD student. Was not a fan of school, did the very bare minimum, tried to find every way to get past school because I knew that it just wasn't an interest, it wasn't a passion of mine. So starting off and going into the working world, I'll never forget this. My mom actually gave me at the end of, when I graduated, which was a miracle in itself. But when I graduated, my mom said, "Hey, you know what? We can either throw a party or I can give you $500 for, your graduation. What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I'll take the $500. So most of that summer, I tried to kind of find what it was I wanted to do. And, growing up, I was fortunate. I lived in a pretty nice area and had neighbors that had some really nice houses. I go, "Man, these guys got their stuff together. I mean, they got their shit together. Why shouldn't I probably go and find out what they do for work, see if maybe they got a job for me?" So started door knocking, went literally around my entire neighborhood. And one of the last doors that I had knocked on, the guy just so happened to own a mortgage company. So started off in mortgage. August 30th of 2004. I remember the exact date because that was the day that everything changed for me. But was scared to death, literally almost walked out of the room because I've never made cold calls before. They got a job for me as a telemarketer. And I'll never forget the woman that was there. We were dialing literally out of, phone book type size, sitting there going through the numbers, just cold calling. And it was definitely a learning experience, but going through it, I mean, I'll never forget. She's like, listen, just give him hell. You can be whoever you want to be on the phone. And since then, I mean, it took me some time to develop the skill set and get better, but I moved up through the ranks, became a loan officer, and then once the meltdown happened, got out of that. Tried my hand in a lot of other stuff, but about 7 years ago, I got put right back into the real estate and inside sales end of things, and been in a sales capacity for now going on 16 years. So I've been doing it for quite some time, literally right out of school. Actually, yeah, 16 years. Crazy to think. So right out of school, just started in sales. So that's a little bit about me. Kristen, as far as kind of giving a little bit about your story, I mean, of course, you've been with me now for, I mean, we're coming on close to a year, almost about a year. You've talked to hundreds of real estate agents. I mean, kind of tell a little bit about your story as a realtor and, a little bit about what you were doing.
Sure. Well, the thing about me is I sold in the Mentor area, Mentor, Ohio, and Concord, Painesville. I sold in east side of Cleveland, west side of Cleveland. I sold there for Remax for about 6 years in the 90s. And that was like, when you uploaded a photo to MLS, it took like 10 minutes to do it, right? So
right.
That was the thing. I sold, and it seemed, it's really not that long ago when we think about it, but it kind of is, right? That we didn't really email contracts. We didn't do anything like that. It was a lot of faxing in the car and presenting in person, which was like unheard of back then. But what happened was actually in 2001, and September 11th happened, and the area of Solon, Ohio that we lived in, me and my ex-husband, the area that we lived in, I don't know, it was like a lot of people wanted to leave. I had listings I couldn't sell. It was just kind of a thing, right? It was just, and I couldn't withstand a bad market at the time because I was one person. I was a solo agent. So we moved to Florida. I sold all my stuff, sold my client list, my boxes and everything, moved to Florida. And everybody always asked me, they're like, do you want to get back into real estate? And I said, well, I love sales. I've done it forever, done it out of college. I said, I would, but not in a traditional sense. It just, it was a lot of hard work for me, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. So when I've done phone sales forever, I've worked in corporate sales, I've done many, many things. And it was honestly with big corporate sales, a lot of the time it's really hard to believe in your product. And you start going, I'm saying things that people want to hear, but is it actually the truth?
Yep.
And I couldn't live my life that way anymore. Just doing what corporate told me to do, these big higher powers. And that's when I started to look for something that I could sell that I could believe in. And I knew something about it because I sold real estate, and it just sort of fit. When Matt kind of sought me out, we kind of sought each other out. We met, it was one of those job posting things, and it just sort of worked and it fit, and I just love it. It's the best choice I've made. Honestly, it just fits so well for both of us. You and I both.
It's funny because, I mean, I went through probably hundreds of applications, and I mean, I talked to a lot of they all had like some sort of a real estate background, and some of them didn't. I mean, some of them had really unique elements that they were able to bring to the table. But the one thing that with you is I automatically just felt comfortable. I was like, I feel at ease. I feel like it's someone that I've talked to that I've known for years. And I think that's really important. And especially because I train people on how to literally sound like you've known people for a long time, how you built some rapport, but it's not, sometimes it's forced. Sometimes it's not natural. And with you, it's more natural. It's more disarming. It's disengaging. And I think that's really a huge part of it. So that's awesome. So talk a little bit about, and I mean, it's kind of funny because I remember our first meeting was at Starbucks, and you told me that you had all this marketing background. And of course, again, with me being a marketer at heart, because I know that that's really where the marketplace is going. And if you're not differentiating and you're not using social media or content to leverage your authority or brand positioning, it's game over. And we're going to talk a lot about that stuff on here. We won't get too much into that today, but that's going to be on some of our other episodes. But tell everybody a little bit about Kitty Emporium. which is an awesome name, but also, I mean, tell us a little bit about what your background was with that.
With Kitty Emporium, we wanted to do, and to be very honest with you, I have to admit, a business service is a lot easier. This is just, I think anybody would know this. If you've tried to do retail, or you've tried to do marketing, or like a business proposition or a money-making proposition, it's always easier to promote the money-making proposition. It unfortunately, it just kind of fizzled out. I'll be honest. I mean, I've been watching Gary Vaynerchuk lately, and we have to be honest, right? I went through a divorce. The business unfortunately kind of took a tumble because of that. I'm not saying that I wouldn't go back to Kitty Emporium, but in the meantime, I did about 18 months of learning about social media. I learned from a member of Billie Jean. We've been to Billie Jean conferences. I have been to Vince Reed conferences. I've met some, I've met Roland Frazier. I've met Steve Sims. And it's just been, what was cool about this position is that I can use those things now that I had learned. I ran my own ads. I made my own videos. I did all that stuff. Again, unfortunately, my personal life kind of unfortunately interfered with it. I'm not saying I wouldn't do another business like that, but life happens and we all know it, right? And you learn from it. The good news is that I get to do all this stuff with you now and feel more comfortable on camera. That's one of the hardest things to get over. And then we have this weirdo lighting going on, right? So, it's just kind of getting back into the groove of things. I did it before, but we're doing it, like I said, for a business service. It's a lot easier, in my opinion, to market that than retail. I don't know if I'd go back to retail again, to be honest.
Yeah.
Retail's tough, especially cats. Oh my goodness.
We'll have to make sure that
pages. Yeah.
We'll have to make sure that the prison guards give you some yard time, so that way we can get some sun in the background. But
honestly, I'm getting a little pale. I think I need to go outside. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, Kitty Emporium did help for this kind of venture. It did, because I just studied it for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I mean, as far as the, for you, and I mean, because you've talked with hundreds of clients now and prospects and agents from all over between Canada and US, I mean, what would you say is probably one of the biggest challenges that today's realtors facing? I mean, what do you think that looks like?
Time shortage. It was back in the 90s. It's very much still true today. It's time, again, we all know that like nurtures are gold, right? And all these leads that we have are gold. But yet, as a realtor, I would find this is just me now. This is me calling out my own, my own shit. Because it was, right? And I owned it. I would rather die than call those people a lot of the time. It was like, oh, do I have to go through and do this? And I would always pick the ones that were like super hot, that had to make a move, that I would run after. And then all these nurtures would just kind of sit there. And I know that was one of the reasons that I didn't have more clients, is I didn't have either me actually sitting down and doing it, which I never found the time, or I was too scared to hire someone to do it because I didn't want to part with the money.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why I didn't grow. I'll tell you that right now, because I didn't have enough. I lived my life by fear at that point. And I just was like, well, that could be money that could be sitting in my pocket. And I just didn't want to part with it. And now looking at it, it's kind of silly.
Right.
But people run through that. That really hasn't changed. The time factor really has not changed. Even though we can do more during business, we can email contracts, we can do Skype appointments, we can do all these things, but people still have a shortage of time. That hasn't changed.
No, it's so true. And I'm glad you brought that up. But I mean, I think the biggest thing too is that when the way that the market is totally different than what it was even 5 years ago. I mean, I remember 7 years, going 7-8 years. I used to call expireds, and I mean, literally, I'd get expireds on the phone like there was no tomorrow. I'd make a phone call, I'd call 50 people, and out of 50 people, I'd have like almost 14, 15 conversations. Now it's like you get 4 or 5, and that's dwindled. And a lot of that is just the change of the times, the change of the platform of where people are at. And for a lot of realtors, I think that's really discouraging because they're thinking to themselves, oh, well, I'm going to make calls. I have 1 hour to make these calls. But then with the hour that they have, they're like, well, I didn't get a hold of anybody. And now I'm, kind of left grasping at straws. And the one thing that we've done to, fix that is we've really kind of flipped our model on its head. We used to be all call all the time. Now we're more like a 60-40 where we're calling 60% of the time, and then 40% of the time we're sending out text messages. And I mean, what we found, at the lowest, our contact rate was dismal, 3%. It was horrible. It was not good. And at 3%, that means you're making 100 dials to talk to 3 people. It's tough. So we went from making 100 dials and talking to 3 people to now making 100 contacts and talking to somewhere between like 7 and 11 people, which really helped increase our conversion rate. Because again, more conversations, more people you engage with, the higher likelihood you are of getting an appointment. But taking a step back and kind of peeling the onion with that. So you think that time is probably one of the biggest things that still to this day is one of the biggest bottlenecks that realtors have?
Oh yeah, because the thing is that a lot of realtors, they've got children, they've got lives, they've got parents who need to go to the doctors, they've got all this stuff, right? And it's just, again, life takes over. Whether you're going out to dinner with your friends or something comes up, or they're putting out fires. I know the more business I did, and I think everybody can go with this, the more business I did, if I had really crazy months where I sold like 6 and 7 homes as a solo agent, I had those. Right?
Yeah.
I had no time to do anything. So then I got them all closed and got them all ready to go. And then I'd have to start all over again. And it was like, I just that's why it's so funny. I wasn't too anxious to go back into real estate in Florida. I just wasn't. I just remembered all those things. And I was like, oh, so I sympathize when someone tells me these things. I've been there, and I thought, oh, would it change now because technology is so much better? Little bit.
Yeah. Right.
Little bit. I think you can do more deals just because you don't have to like jump in the car, have someone find a fax machine like how we used to do back in the day. I think you can still close more deals, but I think people still leave money on the table because they're not getting to what they need to do to take their business to the next level and to get into those leads that are just sitting there collecting dust. That's
totally.
what it is.
Totally agree. And I think the biggest thing too is that there's a lot more shiny objects out there now. There's always, there's a quick fix for this, or, there's so many things. Right. Oh yeah, it's so true. And there's so many different apps and things. And you know what? I'll tell you what, the cell phone is one of the greatest things ever, but it is also one of the biggest distractions. And that in itself is so, it can be crippling because if you're new to the business, you could literally allow yourself. I love how people will say, I'm spending a lot of time on social media. I'm doing marketing on social media. I'm looking for clients on social media. And then, come to find out behind, they're playing Candy Crush. And hey, listen, nothing against Candy Crush. I know I enjoy every once in a while. You have to decompress and play a game or do something, whatever, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you got to be time blocking out the time so that you can utilize the platform as much as you can. I was up yesterday till 5 doing ClickFunnels ads because I didn't have time during the day. So I was literally up running, doing ads and running through, making sure that I had my tags all linked up. There's so many things now that as a realtor, I think the biggest obstacle for realtors is also content. And making sure that they have good, solid, relevant content and that they're building authority through technology and they're leveraging technology. Because what ends up happening in a lot of cases is realtors and not just realtors, guys. This is all sales professionals. If you're selling cars, if you're an insurance salesperson, if you don't have good, consistent, relevant content that's constantly going out there and you're talking to the right audience, it can totally break your business, and it could put you in a spot where, without leveraging that technology, you might still close some deals, but you're only closing deals because they're referrals. And I feel like that's really where the shift has happened. And Kristen, I mean, you were in this, so of course I remember the one thing that you had told me when you first got started was, hey, I understand all these concepts, but what the hell are all these lead generation things? We never had any of this. Like, what's this system? What's this system? What does this do? What does this do?
No, we didn't have any of that.
It's totally different. It is. And I mean, a lot of it too is just, it's knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, and knowing, really picking your spots when you get on these calls. Because if you're not, knowing that you're having to prospect, or you're maybe putting someone in the spot to prospect, you need to know every nuance and every element of it. So, I mean, Kristen, in your opinion, I mean, as far as time goes and leveraging time, I mean, what are some things that you think that, either business owners or agents, I mean, what do you think they can try to do to help leverage time in your opinion?
Well, what I've even tried to do because let's face it, I'm working for someone, a small business again. I'm not working for this big corporate thing where everybody's my schedule was laid out for me, right? This is what we did. So you just kind of you really have to, what I started to do, even with Kitty Emporium at the time when I was working on that, is I would set an alarm on my phone, and it was like, okay, I would do this for 2 hours, and then I would maybe work on ClickFunnels for 2 hours, and then I would do something else for 2 hours. If you can stick to that and live your life, and actually set that time, if you said, look, I really can't hire an ISA, or I really am fussy about calling my people on my own, then do it. Then set the phone, then just set your cell phone down, right? Or set that 2 to 3 hours aside, and then just call. What I find that, it's when people and we know this, when people make excuses about why they don't call, and it just tends to get into that, well, I'm not calling because of this, but it's okay because I'm making deals. I'm making deals, I'm making sales. But again, how much more could you be doing just by either setting 2 to 3 hours aside and calling them yourself, or you hire someone that's like, can come in and just do it for you, and you have all your calls recorded, and you have an operations manager and quality and all that stuff. And then you don't have to worry about that, and start getting your appointments that way.
Well, and it's funny because you brought up, I mean, it's a really great point. You brought up something earlier that I kind of brushed over, but it's so true. How many agents we talk to that are, oh yeah, I got 5 deals on the board this month. I'm too busy to prospect. I'm too busy to market. I'm too busy to create content. And so they close their 5 deals, and then they go into like a starvation mode for 2 to 3 months before they close their next deal.
That was me. That was me. That was me all day.
And it's tough because it's like, the goal, and I mean, really, because this is what I tell everybody with hiring an inside sales rep. And there's so many people that think that if you hire an inside sales rep, it's the golden goose. Oh, this is going to solve all my problems. Oh, it's going to be the greatest thing ever. Sure, there are some elements that do make it the greatest thing. There are some elements that do make it it could become a golden goose, but it takes time. Like anything else, it takes time, and it takes a lot of patience. And in addition to time and patience, it also takes the having realistic expectations as to what they're going to be able to accomplish. Because the ultimate goal, and this is how I look at things, if I'm closing 12 deals a year, and this is just a modest number, and I mean, I don't know if anyone knows this, but I mean, the average agent only closes like 8 to 10 deals a year. And I mean, that's on the high end. If I'm an agent and if I'm only closing, let's say 12 deals a year, those 12 deals that I'm closing, I want a closing in January. I want a closing in February. I want a closing in March. I want a closing in April. I don't want 4 closings in January. And then May comes around, I get 4 closings in May, and then I get my other 4 closings in October. Because what ends up happening is and again, that's only if I'm only closing 12 deals. I want it to be consistently, consecutively, month after month, business is coming in. And what I would tell you is that if you have consistent, consecutive business month after month coming in, you're never going to have a reason that you're going to go out of business, or you're not going to want to be a realtor anymore. I mean, maybe you don't like it. I mean, that's, of course, it is very stressful. I love total squirrel moment here, but I love when people get into the business. Like, I want to be my own boss, and I want to get the hell out of here, be your own boss. You always answer to somebody. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, you're either answering to your clients, you're answering to prospects. I mean, I want to be my own boss. I want a flexible schedule. Well, flexible schedule means unemployment. Like, right? No, you don't have a flexible schedule. So it is definitely a challenging position. It's a challenging role, but I mean, obviously there is so much potential in it. And if you have an inside sales rep, or, and again, guys, I don't recommend an inside sales rep for everybody. I want to clarify that. But if you have an inside sales rep or an administrative assistant or transaction coordinator, find the tasks that you absolutely hate doing and literally divvy those out first. And now, again, obviously, if you hate meeting with people face to face and closing deals, that's maybe you should be in business, right? But at the other tasks you should delegate off. I mean, like the admin roles, you should delegate off. You should never be doing $10 an hour work. That's what I always tell everybody. If you're someone who's looking to make six figures, you're not going to get there by doing $10 an hour work. It just won't happen. So there's always better ways to leverage your time, to leverage your energy, to leverage your efforts, and to put somebody in that role that can actually focus on it. Because the one biggest thing, I mean, like coaching with Darren Hardy. It's probably one of the best. Probably one of the best coaches that I've had, as far as, and he wasn't a personal coach, but I paid for a lot of his actual coaching, time blocking, and high level optimization of yourself and making the best of your time. But the one biggest takeaway that I got was that you should not be, if it's something that you don't want to do, it needs to be delegated off. And even if it means it costs you some money, in the long run, you're going to make a whole lot more. Because if you're spending time doing this administrative task, or you're spending time, let's say you're spending time marketing and you don't know how to, run ads or whatever the case may be, it's better to hire on people that can do these roles for you. A big takeaway that I want everyone to walk away with is that there is, in my mind, there's a threshold for when you want to hire an inside sales rep, when you want to hire a transaction coordinator. I always recommend that you're at the very bare minimum $5 million in, and again, this is of course to hire an in-house person. Virtual, you can do it on less, and we talk about that. But I always recommend that you're at least about a $5 million in average volume in sales for the year before you take on an inside sales rep. And the reason why that is because, again, with any sales position, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. When you bring this person in, it may take them, a few months. I mean, hell, it took me, and I was really good on the phone. I had Quicken Loans training. I trained with some of the best people at Quicken, and I mean, their training is phenomenal. And worked with other, mortgage institutions where the training was great, but it took me 5 months to get my first deal closed. So, and I mean, I was still setting appointments in the meantime, but it does take time to get that cash conversion to happen. So if you're a business owner, I would highly recommend that you set aside at a minimum 5 to 6 months of core capital reserves before you bring on an inside sales rep, or at least have 3 to 4 months that are setting aside so that you're not so desperate for them to produce. Kristen, do you want to add anything on that? Anything else that you thought as far as that goes?
Well, yeah, that's the thing about an ISA is, like, if I'm thinking of myself as a realtor, I'd be like, oh, well, then I'll get deals immediately. No. Because think about it, even though this person is highly trained, does this for a living, it's still going to take time to ramp up. Real estate always takes time. There's nothing quick about it. So yeah, we want to be realistic in that, but when we see what the company has done for people and how much it's increased their output, how many more deals they're getting and stuff, obviously totally worth it. But yeah, it's not going to be something that happens overnight. It does take time. And I like the fact that you're really clear, and you're, what I like about you, Matt, is that you don't sugarcoat anything. Like, you're telling it the way that it is. You don't overpromise, and I think that's just awesome.
My wife doesn't. My wife doesn't like that. My wife doesn't like that I don't sugarcoat things. But that's it's she always gives. But again, it's open and honest. It's being open and real. It's having open communication. I mean, I feel like no matter what, you always have to lead with being authentic and genuine. And I mean, it's funny because I can't tell you how many times when I work with someone and I feel like they're missing that authenticity, or they're not being genuine, it's sort of a put off. And the whole point with having an inside sales rep or having an admin, you can sit here and say you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. You can tell everybody how amazing you are, how many homes you've sold, and that you're the number one, you're the number one Remax or the number one Keller Williams or the number one Coldwell or EXP, even though you might have only one real estate company in like a 500-mile radius that is that same company. You could be the number one in your area. But if you don't have someone to help you leverage that time and have someone else actually say how great you are, it really does. It makes a huge difference in the marketing part of it. And that's the big part, I think, with an ISA, having an inside sales associate makes a huge difference. So giving you guys some actionable items that you can walk away with. Some things that if you're thinking about hiring an inside sales rep, I do want to just let you guys know, of course, we have a virtual company. We can certainly help you guys out with that. I put the website up on the screen. It's www.callmattmilia.com. You are more than welcome to, even if you're just in kind of a rut and you're thinking, well, I don't know if is now the right time. Should I look to hire them? We're going to let you know one way or the other. Kristen, if you wouldn't mind, without sharing names, you had a call today, and it was funny because you called me and you told me that the gentleman wanted to go more hours, and you sort of talked him out of it. Tell me a little bit about like the psychology behind that.
Well, the reason is to be honest with you, it was so much. Oh, that's okay. Oh, here, wait, really close. There we go. Boom. The reason is I always think of it logically. Like, let's start with something that, first of all, I didn't want him to be stressed out about funds, first of all. I said, okay, not saying that even would happen, but my thing was I'd much rather start slower in something specific that he was looking for, and then we can add. We can always add. It's sort of like overcooking a steak. You kind of can't go back to it.
Yep.
So my thing is that let's start out, he could have probably gotten a higher package, but I thought, you know what, just to be sure that you're happy with it, I just in good conscience, for the amount of leads that he had, I in good conscience really could not recommend the higher package to start. I'm not saying we can't go there, and we could change it whenever he wants to. However, I just thought it was, I don't want to say safe, but I just thought, like, I'm pushing something on somebody that maybe doesn't need that right now.
Yeah, and that's, and I think that is why when I brought you in, and it's so funny because I've had so many people tell me, oh, you could hire this sales rep. This guy is amazing. He's going to blow up your business. He's going to get you all these sales. That's not my goal. I mean, look, every business needs sales. Yes, absolutely. But I want to work with the right people, and I want to make sure that I actually can help them grow their business. That's more important to me than anything, is making sure that we can actually deliver on what we say we're going to do. Because there's so many companies out there that will feed you a line of BS and say, oh, we'll set you up on hundreds of appointments, and you're going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's this and it's that. It's like, okay, it's almost like setting up a for sale by owner appointment and saying, hey, we've got buyers. We'd love to come preview the house for the buyers. And then when you get there, you're like, gotcha. Now you're going to say, now I'm going to tell you about my listing, and you're going to like force something down their throat. And it's like, no one likes that. It's the worst. It's totally misleading. And it's doing things the wrong way. So I look at it from a standpoint of, I would much rather turn someone down for the right reasons than bring them on for the wrong ones. So I always feel like, and that's, I appreciate you sharing that. And the reason why I wanted to just, let everyone know, I mean, we operate with, the core value of, the putting our clients first, and really, operating as one team and one goal, which, in my mind, that doesn't just put the clients first, because it's also putting us first and the client first, and we're all winning together because we have one goal. We want to help you accomplish your return and set appointments.
If I may add one thing, remember when I said before about how I pitched for corporate and how I had a hard time standing behind what I was saying.
Right.
It was a cable company. I'm not going to say who. Okay. It was a
Right.
regional one at the time, and it was in Florida. And here was the thing. This is what I couldn't live with. And when you asked me about why did I do what I did today, if anything, now I was very successful at that company, but I would try to sell someone a DVR and mine didn't work. Okay.
Right.
And it was promoted to do that. That's how you made, that's what you did. Okay. And
Right.
that was rough. That was rough. And for a while I thought, well, okay, they're not in contracts or anything. It's okay. But still, it was like, this is wrong. This
Oh
is really
yeah.
wrong. And we were taking advantage of something that I knew my thing didn't work for like 6 weeks, but yet
Right.
I'm promoting it. Right. And I just thought, I cannot, in good conscience, do that to somebody. It's a different thing with the DVR, but doing it to someone where you say, oh, yeah, of course you need that. Oh, yeah, of course that dress looks great on you. Saleswomen do that to you.
Yeah. Right.
Saleswomen do that. Oh, yeah, that looks fabulous, even though you look
Right.
like a nightmare, right? So, I
Right.
mean, I just can't do that. I
Right.
won't, and we have too much respect for our clients to do that. That is just, we are, like I said, I wanted to be with a company that did not promote that kind of sales, which is
And,
dishonest and unethical.
right.
And
And it
that's what I love about this.
and it becomes unhealthy. I mean, it becomes an unhealthy work environment. I mean, my goal is I never want to create friction with clients. That's always the number one objective. I don't want to create friction with clients. I am, I'm one of those people where I want to over deliver what it is that we say we're going to do. The last thing and again, I also want people though that I think the biggest challenge is that, I can't tell you how many times people are like, "Oh my God, I have an ISA. The magic wand has been waved, and all life's challenges are gone." And it's like, no, like, come on, like it's a sales rep. It's just like you hiring, a real estate agent. I mean, they're not going to get it immediately. They're not going to be the greatest immediately. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen, but there's the law of averages just sort of says that these are things that we have to push past that force of average, but there is a ramp up period to everything. Going back to what you were saying real quick, and I mean, just sort of to piggyback on that, when you were talking about doing the right thing, and when we first started, and again, I didn't know what I didn't know. We hired a bunch of people that were out of the country, and I'm not going to say where it's from because I will just say we hired out of country callers, and everybody kind of knows what I mean by that. But I'm talking about people that have never lived in the States. They have a very, very heavy accent, and it was a fraction of the cost of what it would be today. But the value wasn't there. These individuals couldn't have high level conversations. They weren't able to relate. And look, I'm not saying, if anyone who's watching or sees this, if you have somebody who is not in the States, and they're doing well, that's great. But I went through almost 30 inside sales reps with this one organization that had out of the country callers, and it was really challenging because I knew that the ultimate obstacle was, how do I get them to be relatable? How do I get them to use common American sayings? I'll never forget the one guy, hey, if I were to walk a mile in your shoes, and I don't know why he used it at this time, but he said something along the lines of, if I were to walk a mile on your shoe, and I'm like, oh man, like you just gave it away that you're not from here. And it's little things like that really,
like
it's little stuff like that. Like, wait, mile on my shoe. Wait, what? What are you saying right now?
Yeah, right. You lost me. Yeah.
Oh, or we used to have a line where we had, proven repeatable method to sell homes for up to 18% more. And they said, proven repeatable meth head. And I'm like, oh no, like you can't say that we have a meth head. Like it's a method. So these are little things that it's like, no, like this is what you're putting out. This is a reflection of your organization. So I'm like, yeah, after that, we pivoted so quick and started bringing on, okay, we need to now look for U.S. and or, expatriates, people that were living in the States, because, those are some of the best possible people that you can, that you can bring into your organization, is bringing in people that can relate. So I want to leave you guys with some actionable items here before we sign out. And the first thing that I want to leave you with is that if you're thinking about hiring an ISA, again, I am always, calendar is always open. You can go to our site, but if you're thinking about doing it, you want to do it in office, giving you guys just a little bit of feedback with your office hires. Number one, you need to make sure that you have an infrastructure that supports hiring in the office. And when I tell people that, they're like, well, what do you mean an infrastructure? I'm the best agent. I sell 100 homes. It doesn't matter, because if you're not ready to lead, and to lead by an example, and to block out time to communicate, and to block out time to really help this person get to the next level, it's going to be a train wreck. And I'll never forget, I was very fortunate with my background and my training. I've always had an intrinsic drive and motivation to do a lot, to do more. But they always say, when the cat's away, the mice will play. So meaning, if you're out on an appointment and there's no one there to hold the ISA accountable, it becomes kind of challenging to get the results. And again, I think the biggest thing is that as an agent, you're like, okay, they set an appointment for today, but then what else do they do with the rest of their time? What other activities did they put in to make for a successful tomorrow? Because they may have had one great conversation on the phone, but then they played online games for all day, or they were messing around on Snapchat, or they were all over Instagram, whatever the case may be, or they're watching YouTube videos that have nothing to do with sales. Bottom line is that you don't really know what it is that they're doing. So if you are going to hire somebody in-house, I'm going to make a recommendation. It's called, and again, if you don't have the infrastructure, I'm going to at least give you some core pieces to help out with that. We use a system called Time Doctor. Time Doctor is absolutely phenomenal. Time Doctor will literally track your how many times you log into a platform. It'll take screenshots. It will show you. It'll show you all the way down where if you actually wanted to take a picture of the person sitting at their desk working, you could do it. Don't worry, Kristen, I don't have that activated for any of our stuff. I've learned the hard way not to activate the picture thing when people are working from home. It's another story for another day. But the point is that you want to make sure that when your guys are there and they're working, if you're not able to be in the office, you want to at the very least have an idea. And all it is that you're managing the behavior. You want to make sure, because if the behavior is not there, that's the biggest challenge, is making sure that the behavior is there. And then I would say the other big thing, as far as when you're hiring an inside sales rep, is you've got to make sure that you're managing an agreement and you're not managing an expectation. There has to be a contract. And by the way, if anybody that's watching the call wants access to a contract, just shoot us a message. You can even comment on here. We will actually give you a copy of it, what an agreement should look like if you're looking to hire an in-house ISA. But again, if you're not managing an agreement and you're just managing emotions and these expectations, it's going to be a very short-lived tenure with that ISA, because you haven't really outlined what success looks like. So they need to know, what does success look like for you? That's a really big takeaway that we've had over the years of hiring in-house and virtual ISAs. You've got to be managing an agreement. And then I would probably say a really good area, so for any of you that are looking to hire in-house, I would say look at LinkedIn and look at Indeed. LinkedIn is great to find people, but of course you generally have to pay extra to find the person that's already has work from another company. But you can use, we've used Indeed and found a ton of success. We've also used Craigslist. And then you need to have something to test them. That's the biggest thing. I use this company, it's called Criteria Corp. We pay a few $1,000s a year for it. It's not cheap. There are other areas though, like there's Wonderlic tests that you can bring them on. I want to test this person. I want to know that whoever we're bringing in is going to be intelligent. They're going to be quick on their feet, and they're going to be able to overcome objections and help you take your business to the next level. So, Kristen, did you want to, before we kind of close things out, did you have anything that you wanted to add as far as, as far as just kind of a day in the life of the realtor, and what are some of any other bottlenecks you can think of that they might be facing that they could use some help with?
Well, one, Matt, that I think is really good that you've mentioned before, and I think you'll start nodding when I say it. Most of the time now I'm not saying every time, but a lot of the time when a realtor hires an ISA, they're considered commission only, right? Commission
Yep.
only. You got a ramp up period of, this is why real estate is hard for a lot of people. You got a ramp up period of 3 to 4 months sometimes, right? You got that guy, you got no money coming in, but yet this guy's making calls for you.
Right.
Or lady. First of all, how enthusiastic are they going to be since they're not getting paid, right?
They won't be.
How are they going to say, just because they're making calls doesn't mean they're making good ones, right?
Right.
So, and you have the chance of them getting frustrated because they can't pay their bills, or they're not getting anywhere, and then you're back to square one again. Right. So you've mentioned that before, and I think that's hugely overlooked, because are realtors prepared to pay either a salary to an ISA, or do they have something there that an ISA is going to stay with them? A lot of people don't have the luxury of not being able to be paid for 3 and 4 months, while your business is ramping up. So that could be something that you could run, you could spend all this time and effort finding an ISA and then be right back to square one when they say, you know what, dude, I'm just not making enough money and I'm out. So then you're right back to where you were.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up, because I totally didn't even think about that. I mean, because there's so many different nuances to this. And the one thing, so what I always recommend, and I tell a lot of the agents who go to salary.com. Now, I will tell you, I mean, that's not always 100% accurate, but it will give you a baseline. What I always recommend for people that are looking to hire ISAs, in most cases, I mean, especially if you're hiring an office, I would at least recommend that you give them, anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500 a month at a bare, that's a kind of a bare minimum. But $1,500 to $2,500 a month, and then you give them a percentage of commission. And I know everyone's going to say, oh, well, laws, I can't give commission. That's fine. Whatever. You do whatever you want to do as far as that element goes. You can call it a performance bonus. You can call it whatever you want. You can give them a fixed rate of money for deals that close within a certain range. Hey, if you close a $200,000 deal, you get $400. If you close a $300,000 deal, you get $600, and so forth. And again, those ranges vary, but you want to give them enough that they can put gasoline in the tank and get to the office every day. But they're also going to be on a ramen noodle diet for a little while. They're not going to be eating that. They're not going to be. It's not going to be steak and lobster dinners. They're going to be just barely making ends meet, but just enough so that you can groom them. And then eventually, what's going to happen is they're going to have so many closings that you'll be fine with giving them a little bit more. But you don't want to pay them so little. The biggest challenge what I see with a lot of agents is, oh, I'm going to give them 15% off the top. Well, that's great, but you're going to give them 15% on deals that probably won't close for 4 to 5 months. It's very challenging for someone who is making these calls to come in and say, okay, I'm going to go 4 or 5 months without any money whatsoever. So I would always recommend, if you want a place for reference, go to salary.com. And then I would say probably take 20 to 25% off of that, because I mean, I feel like it is a little bit high in some markets. But I will tell you that, a baseline at the bare minimum, $1,500 a month, I would probably not recommend to go any lower than that, because even that is probably going to deter some people. Because the worst thing you can do is you hire them, you spend all the time in training them, money to train and hire, hold them accountable, get the systems, get the technology in alignment, only so that they can quit a month or two later because you're not paying them enough, and they find another job where they're going to make, $40,000 a year base pay plus get bonuses. And they may actually be able to make more money working with you with your current model, but they just can't see it because the deals aren't closing yet. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and as a salesperson, I mean, when you aren't making money, it is defeating. It is. I mean, it is. And when like, okay, yeah, we sold a house, but I'm not going to get paid for another 45 days to 6 months 60 days on that.
Right.
I mean, everybody's got to eat, everybody's got a car payment, rent, all that stuff. So, and that's the thing. I mean, realtors, they just think, well, everybody can work on commission. Well, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised when that ISA is like, you know what, I found someone that's even going to give me a better cut. You know, you can do that too, rather than just paying them something and keeping them there. And then they're like, okay, yeah, I can build on this, and I know I'll make more money here, and they'll be enthusiastic about calling for you as well. You don't want somebody calling sounding like they're death warmed over either.
Right. Well, and I think the other big thing too is that, again, going back to infrastructure, and we're going to talk a lot about this, guys. So like next week, we're actually going to have Dale Archdeacon on. Dale is phenomenal. Dale runs a company called Smart Inside Sales, and he actually is he's an inside sales coach and trainer, but he also does, he will also help you with kind of giving you advice on your hiring. The guy is phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about him. And he's got a pretty much kind of a built out system. So we're going to talk more on conversion and a little more on how to properly make sure that this person's compensated that's working with you. But ultimately, I want to make sure that everyone understands that when you're in a position of hiring this person, the infrastructure has to be there. You have to have a sales manager, and you have to have somebody that's going to do quality control. Either that, or you have to be that person, because there's so many people that don't they don't have these roles, they don't have these positions, and then they end up wondering, well, why didn't it work out? Why didn't I get the results? And it's, well, because the infrastructure is not there. So if you guys want to talk a little bit more on hiring ISAs, helping out with maybe your marketing, because we do have, just quick shameless plug here, we do actually offer compensation plans and models that are compensation only, meaning pay for performance more than anything. So we do have models like that. So if you're someone who maybe you're in that cusp, maybe you've done $3 million in volume, or you've done 2 million, and you're looking to scale to get to that next level, but you're like, well, I can't afford, a couple $1,000s every month. We have models that are a fraction of that price. So you can go over to our site. It's www.callmattmilia.com, and just click on the link. It'll directly get you access to my calendar, and we can set up a quick, no cost, no obligation meet and greet, talk to you a little bit about growing your business and helping you get really things to that next level. And whether or not we can help you or not, I mean, I want to at the very least give you some actionable items that you can walk away with. And by the way, if anyone's looking to hire an ISA and they want access to the agreement, certainly just shoot us a message on our appointment today page, or you can even private message me. That's fine as well. But if you want to comment in here, we'll get you access to a PDF fillable contract so that you can make sure that you're managing all elements of the agreement opposed to expecting. So aside from that, Kristen, thank you for joining us. We're gonna get the lighting all nice and pretty so that it doesn't look like it's in prison environment. But at the same time, I know I hope everybody got a lot of value out of this call. I know I definitely got value out of shooting it. And again, if you guys have questions or need anything, feel free to reach out to us. Kristen, anything you wanted to close out with?
No, thank you. I'm so glad we did this. We've been wanting to do it, so I'm excited. And I'm excited to have Dale next week, and it's going to be a blast. I'm really looking forward. I've had so much fun doing this.
Yeah, same here. So So next week, everybody, Dale Archdeacon. And if you want more info on him, you can go to smartinsidesales.com. He is phenomenal. If you need help with coaching or training your inside sales reps, or if you just want to coach your agents, because I mean, hey, there are some agents that can use some additional coaching for conversion. Go on his website, check him out. He is really, really amazing. So Kristen, again, thank you for jumping in, and we will see you guys next week, same channel, same place.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.